Good morning, boys and girls. This is Gramslam, here to read you a book that I hope you enjoy. I always like this book. It's called Flap Your Wings by P.D Eastman. Flap your wings. An egg lay in the path. A boy came down the path and he saw the egg. He looked around. He saw flamingos and frogs and turtles and alligators. Then he started to think, whose egg is this? But no one answered. He called out over the pond and nobody even looked at him. Then the boy looked up. He saw an empty nest in the tree. Here is an egg without a nest, he said, and there is a nest without an egg. Well, the boy climbed the tree and he put the egg in the nest, and then he went away. Mr. and Mrs. Bird came home. They were surprised to find an egg in their nest. That is not our egg, said Mrs. Bird. Look how big it is. But it's an egg, and it's in our nest. And Mr. Bird, if an egg is in your nest, you sit on it and keep it warm. It doesn't matter whose egg it is. All right, said Mrs. Bird, but I wonder what kind of bird would come out of that egg. Who knows? They took turns keeping the egg warm. First, Mrs. Bird sat on it. Then Mr. Bird sat on it. And sometimes, because it was so big, both Mr. and Mrs. Bird sat on this huge egg. One day, Mrs. Bird heard a squeak noise. Help, she said, this egg is squeaking. Mr. Bird came back to the nest. He listened to the egg. The egg was not squeaking, he said. It's our baby that's squeaking. He's ready to come out of the egg. Mr. and Mrs. Bird waited. The egg started to crack. Squeak, squeak, crack, scrack. Then it cracked some more. And there was the baby. Mrs. Bird was so excited. It's Junior! What a beautiful baby! Junior opened his mouth. It was a big mouth, and it was full of teeth. That's the funniest looking baby I ever saw, said Mrs. Bird. Something is wrong. I don't think he's our baby at all. He's in our nest, so he must be ours, said Mr. Bird. His mouth is open, and that means he's hungry. When your baby is hungry, you have to feed him. Mr. and Mrs. Bird went away to get some food for Junior. These two birds had a big job taking care of this big-mouthed baby. Mr. Bird brought a pink worm. Mrs. Bird brought a green one. Junior ate both worms in one gulp. Then he opened his mouth wide again. We have to get Junior lots more to eat, said Mr. and Mrs. Bird. They were busy. Hour after hour, day after day, they bought food for Junior. Mrs. Bird got berries and cherries. She got butterflies and caterpillars. She got dragonflies and mosquitoes. She got ladybugs and even big tiger beetles. Mr. Bird got crickets and spiders. He got grasshoppers and snails. He got red ants. He got black ants. He got centipedes too. So they were really trying to fill up this baby, because this baby was big. What kind of bird eats so much, said Mrs. Bird. It doesn't matter, said Mr. Bird. He's still hungry, and we have to feed him. Weeks went by. Junior never stopped eating, and he never stopped growing. He got bigger and bigger and bigger, falling out of the nest bigger. Finally, Junior got so big that Mr. Bird said, "It's too crowded up here. Junior has to leave this nest. It's time for him to fly away." "You're right," said Mrs. Bird. "The time has come. We must show him how to fly." Mr. Bird pushed and pushed. Mr. Bird shoved Junior and pushed, and then he pushed him out of the nest and tried to show him how to fly. "Jump into the air like this," he said. "Then flap your wings," he told Junior. Junior got ready. He took a big breath and jumped. Up, up, up in the air he went. "Flap your wings," yelled Mrs. Bird. "Flap your wings," called Mr. Bird. I don't know what's going to happen here. Junior flapped and flapped, but it didn't do any good. He didn't have any wings. Down, down, down went Junior. Down into the water, and splash! It was cool and wet in the water. It was just right for Junior. Junior felt happy. Junior felt comfortable. "You know," said Mrs. Bird, "I don't think Junior was a bird at all." "It doesn't really matter," said Mr. Bird. "He's happy now. Just look at him, and look at him swim." Thank you for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon. Myself and Miss Kitty here, she listened to the story today. We hope to see you back, and we're wishing you all a good reading day. Read as much as you can. Bye for now.